Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be showing you how to sew the accents on the early TNG pant legs. These accents were seen primarily on the jumpsuits, although we saw similar accents on the Season 1 Admiral uniform trousers, as well as the trousers that were worn with the skants in Season 2. Sewing patterns for most of the uniforms I just mentioned are available on my Tailors Gone Wild website, www.tailorsgonewild.com. I'll be demonstrating with my TNG jumpsuit sewing pattern, so let's dive in. The lower front pant leg trim was done different ways in Seasons 1 and 2. Personally, I think the Season 2 method is both easier and looks better, but I'll walk you through both techniques, and you can decide which one you prefer. We'll start with the Season 1 technique. There's a pattern piece for the trim, piece T1, but it's just a strip of bias cut fabric 1 inch wide and 16 1/4 inches long. Press your trim fabric in half lengthwise. Like with the yoke trim, if you're using the same jumbo spandex as the jumpsuit body, I suggest folding the matte or dull sides together so the trim is shiny sides out. Baste or sew the length of trim closed 1/4 inch from the raw edges. There's an alignment guide for the lower pant slit on the printed pattern. You can reference that if you want, but it's just an 8 inch tall vertical line centered on the lower pant leg. I like to draw the alignment guide on the right side of the fabric with disappearing tailor's chalk. Turn the pant leg around so the bottom is facing away from you. Position the strip of trim on the left so its raw edges are flush with the chalk line and pin it into place. Starting at the bottom of the pant leg, stitch the trim to the pant leg 1/4 inch from the edge, exactly along the previous stitch line. At the top of the alignment guide, 8 inches from the bottom of the pant leg, stop with the needle in the fabric. Lift the presser foot and rotate the pant leg 90 degrees clockwise so the lower pant leg is on the right. Rotate the strip of trim 90 degrees counterclockwise so the remaining length is toward you, and gently move the bulk as far behind the presser foot as you can manage. At a stitch length of 2.5, take 2 stitches, or 3 max, across the top, then stop again with the needle in the fabric. Don't take more than 3 stitches across the top, or it'll cause an ugly little pucker on the finished pant leg. Rotate the pant leg 90 degrees clockwise again, so the lower pant leg is toward you. Rotate the trim 90 degrees counterclockwise again, so the raw edges are flush with those of the opposite side you've already sewn. Stitch back down the remaining length of trim toward the bottom of the pant leg. Pin the lower pant leg facing, piece S, to the lower pant leg, right sides together and centered over the alignment guide. From the underside of the pant leg, stitch again exactly over the previous stitching through all layers, taking care to keep the trim allowance tucked inside the stitching along the top. I found tweezers helpful for this. Clip the pant leg and facing open along the alignment guide up to the stitching. Turn the trim toward the opening, turn the facing under, and press the entire area. Unfold the facing and allowances toward the opening, and understitch the facing to the allowances along the opening. Just do your best around the top. Turn everything back under and press again. Fold the pant leg vertically over the opening so the trim is folded over on itself at the top. Stitch the layers together diagonally from the upper centermost fold down to a couple inches or so from the top, reinforcing your stitching several times on both ends. You may also wish to zigzag stitch or hand sew the layers together inside the machine stitching too. Open the pant leg back up and press the area flat again. That's all for now. We'll finish the area toward the end of the process. Repeat for the other pant leg. For the Season 2 method, I'm not sure exactly how they were done, but I'll show you a couple ways that will produce a similar result. The first way is safer and easier, but a bit more time-consuming. I like to start by applying a narrow strip of fusible interfacing, about 2 inches wide and 9 inches tall, to the underside of the pant leg, horizontally centered over the alignment guide. Mark the alignment guide on the fusible interfacing, then mark a horizontal line perpendicular to it, half an inch beneath the top. Starting at the bottom of the pant leg, stitch 1/4 inch away from the alignment guide up to the horizontal line you marked, half an inch from the top of the opening, shorten your stitch length, and pivot your stitching to the upper corner. Pivot again and stitch back to the horizontal line, then pivot again and stitch back down the opposite edge. This stitching establishes the edges of the opening. Clip the fabric open along the alignment guide, halfway between the two vertical stitch lines. Also clip the allowances horizontally to the stitching at the horizontal line, half an inch from the top of the opening. Press the allowances under along the stitching. There's a pattern piece for the Season 2 pants trim, piece T2, but they're just strips of bias cut fabric 1 inch wide and 9 inches long. Note that the Season 1 pants trim was one long strip, but the Season 2 trim is 2 shorter strips. Press the 2 strips of trim in half lengthwise. Baste or sew the lengths of trim closed 1/4 inch from the raw edges. Unfold the pant leg allowances and position one length of trim on the outside of the pant leg so its lower edges are flush with the bottom of the pant leg, and pin it into place. From the underside of the pant leg, sew the trim to the pant leg, stitching again exactly over the previous stitch line up to where the original stitching pivoted. Flip the pant leg over. At the top corner, fold the pant leg diagonally out of the way so the folded edge of the trim is flush with the upper corner of the opening. Stitch the trim into place along the upper corner, again stitching exactly over the previous diagonal stitching. Repeat for the other length of trim. press the allowances back under and the trim toward the opening. The folded edges of the trim should be flush at the upper corner. To reduce the strain on the two lengths of trim, I suggest making a bar tack directly above the opening. Prepare the lower pant leg facing, piece S, the same way you did for the pant leg, except without the fusible interfacing. Center the facing onto the underside of the pant leg opening with its folded edges flush with the stitch lines. Hand sew the facing to the underside of the trim along the stitch lines, then repeat for the other pant leg. So that was the safer way of doing it. Now I'll show you a way that's a bit more challenging, but potentially faster once you get the hang of it. Apply the fusible interfacing to the underside of the pant leg, but mark the alignment guide on the right side of the pant leg. Pin the two lengths of trim to the outside of the pant leg, with their raw edges flush with the alignment guide. Sew both lengths of trim to the pant leg along the previous stitch lines, stopping 7.5 inches from the bottom of the pant leg and reinforcing several times. Pin the lower pant leg facing, piece S, to the lower pant leg, right sides together and centered over the alignment guide. From the underside of the pant leg, stitch again exactly over both rows of stitching, reinforcing several times at the top. Clip the pant leg and facing open along the alignment guide up to the stitching, plus another 1/2 inch. Also clip the pant leg and facing, but not the trim itself, horizontally to the stitching where it ended. Turn the trim toward the opening, turn the facing under, and press the entire area. Now the tricky part. Fold both the pant leg and facing diagonally out of the way so the folded edge of the trim is flush with the upper corner of the opening. Stitch the pant leg and facing into place through all layers, with the trim sandwiched between them. Then repeat for the other side. Catching both the pant leg and facing layers just right can be a challenge, but if you can manage it, this way is a bit faster than the first way I showed you. As a quick bonus, I'll show you how to do the lower pant legs on the later style TNG jumpsuits too. I like to start by applying a narrow strip of fusible interfacing, about 2 inches wide and 9 inches tall, to the underside of the pant leg, horizontally centered over the alignment guide. Mark the alignment guide on the fusible interfacing, then mark a horizontal line perpendicular to it 1 inch beneath the top. Pin the lower pant leg facing, piece S, to the lower pant leg, right sides together and centered over the alignment guide. Starting at the bottom of the pant leg, stitch a 1/4 inch away from the alignment guide up to the horizontal line you marked, 1 inch from the top of the opening. Shorten your stitch length and pivot your stitching to the upper corner. Pivot again and stitch back to the horizontal line, then pivot again and stitch back down the opposite edge. Clip the fabrics open along the alignment guide from the bottom of the pant leg to the upper corner. Also clip the allowances horizontally to the stitching at the line you marked, 1 inch from the top of the opening. Turn the facing under and press. Unfold the facing and allowances toward the opening, and understitch the facing to the allowances along the opening. Just do your best around the top. Turn the facing back under and press the area again. That's all for now. We'll finish the area toward the end of the process. Repeat for the other pant leg. Whichever version you're making, fast forward to the end of the process, and we need to finish this lower pant leg area. Press the pant leg's 2-inch hem allowance upward and catch stitch it into place, taking care to only catch a tiny thread of the body fabric so your stitches won't be visible on the outside of the pant leg. Press the lower pant leg facing back into place and catch stitch it to the underside of the pant leg too. Repeat for the other pant leg. There's a free sewing tutorial for the TNG jumpsuits on my blog, www.StarTrekCostumeGuide.com. Like I mentioned earlier, sewing patterns for them are available at www.tailorsgonewild.com, both as physical copies and digital downloads. I've also put together an entire video walkthrough on how to make the TNG jumpsuits, which you can also get on the Tailors Gone Wild website. I don't know about you, but I'm a monkey see, monkey do kind of learner. The free tutorial on my blog is very thorough, with detailed instructions and dozens of photos, but I definitely learn best when somebody says, sew these two pieces together along this seam, and I get to actually watch them do it, so I know exactly how to do it too. The full walkthrough is over an hour and a half long, and we cover literally every step of the entire process. Sew this, press these seams, line this thing up with this thing, and before you know it, you have a finished uniform. So check that out if you're interested, and I'll catch you in the next video.